All right, it says we're live. We'll see. We'll see if we are. If you're out there, look at my hair. Oh my gosh, I even got a hat on and it's bad. If you're out there, let me know. Type in the comments section. Type where you are. Say hello. Say howdy, whatever. My name is Michael Bunker. This is the show, Bunker Nation Show. I want to be your host for the evening. I appreciate you turning in. Should I just start over? I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you all for being here. If you are here or whenever you show up, and all you future people are the people that are going to watch this in the future when it's not live. It is live right now. If it says live up in this area, then it's live. But if it's not live, I welcome you to. I appreciate you guys watching it. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button and all that sort of thing. Leave comments after the show on the YouTube channel. We've been doing all right. Not so much in any other way than we're getting more comments and more likes and all that kind of stuff. All right. So welcome War Dog Heim. Welcome Daniel Carr. Welcome Scott Glenn. Welcome all of you people. Tell me where you are. Come in and say hi. If you got something earnestly on your mind that you want to talk about, we'd be glad to talk about that. I want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm wearing my Kayla Ray hat. If you don't know who Kayla Ray is, she's a country music singer that sounds like the old school. If you like Patsy Cline, if you liked all the old school singers, she's an old school singer and she's fantastic. And I got her hat, and hopefully one of these days I'm going to get her here on the show. Still trying to get Garrett Bradford on here. He said he's going to do the show. He's probably kind of busy. He got famous all of a sudden overnight because he's got a song that's going to be coming up on Yellowstone, not tonight, but next Sunday night. And so I'm trying to get him on this show as my first guest ever, but we'll see. Hello, Hava. Hello, Kobe. Glad to have you guys here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit the like button. If you got comments or questions or anything you want to talk about, I'll be glad to. Hello, Missouri. Be glad to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. This is part 2 of the Bugging Out series. I didn't put part 2 or anything on the thumbnail because what happens when you do a series, is if people don't watch the first one, and then they tune in for the second one, then they're like, oh, well, I got to watch the first one. So they stop watching this one, and then they never go watch the first one. You do not have to have watched the first one to watch this one. And if you want to watch the first one, after this live is over, down in the description, there'll be a link to the first part. I'll give you a quick update of the first part. In the first part, I basically said that bugging out generally is a bad idea and all of the reasons why it's a bad idea. We talked a little bit about bug out bags. We talked a little bit about bug out fallacies and myths. And most of them involve people who've watched too much TV, watched too many movies, read too much dystopian literature, and seem to think that their survival skills are up to the task, and they're not. And so, as a disclaimer, I think bugging out for the most part is a bad idea. I think there are other things you need to work on if you can, but this episode is based on the principle that some people are going to have to. They just don't have any other options. And so, or you could get trapped somewhere like I could if I was up visiting my family in Arkansas. Things happen, spin out of control pretty quickly, and trying to get home. So that's basically the premise of what we are planning on talking about tonight. Hello, Pat. We got Montana in the house. We got Florida in the house. We got Michigan in the house. Montana again. South Texas, Michigan. All right. Glad to see you guys all here. Make sure you hit the like button. You got to smash it and destroy it. I got to do this thing because it's just like a tradition now. I got to do it. It's the magic box. All right, so how's everybody doing? How's it going out there? It is something around the end of the first week of August. 97 degrees here in the CTX. It was 99 when I came down here and got set up. I'm doing a very, very inadvisable thing, and that is I'm wearing a gray shirt. But so far, I've not sweated through it. We'll see how it goes by the end of the program. Normally don't wear a hat either. But I got up this morning, went to the gym. I meant to go to church. I intended to go to church, but I did get up late. Things got extended, and it turned out that I didn't get to go to church. And so things have like snowballed. When you get off schedule, things snowball. All right, so if you have questions or comments, anything you want to talk about, make sure you put them in the comment section. We're going to go ahead and get started on our topic for today. And the basic premise is, following on after the last part, is that it is possible that bugging out becomes an absolute necessity because you either have not taken the time over the last 2 years to prepare, do not have the time or the resources to prepare, and or you are stuck where you are for some reason. You have a family member who has to have access to medical care, or you are like 99.9% of the people, and you've justified living where you live because of the comforts and because of the economic benefits, and you've made other reasons to explain to other people why you just have to stay there and you just can't move. I'm always telling it the way it is. That it's possible that you are actually stuck somewhere, but it is almost certainly not true. At the same time, it could happen, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. Bugging out when you have to. First of all, like we mentioned in the last part, you want to make sure, and I apologize if my phone starts going off. For some reason, some people don't know that I'm doing a show at 7 o'clock almost every night. But I'm going to forgive whoever that is. All right, so you're in a situation, any number of things. I could come up with all kinds of scenarios, and I've written a lot of books about this sort of thing. By the way, the top 3 books that I've written that deal with bugging out, or people having to escape systemic collapse, or people having to get from one place to another after a apocalyptic type situation, are linked in the description. And so Wick, of course, is the one you absolutely ought to read. And The Last Pilgrims is a sequel 25 years later, but also has a very, very important and riveting scene of someone trying to move cross country, cross highways, etc., after a systemic collapse. Comfortable economic circumstances. And so here's the thing. If you feel like you're in a situation where you are now, where you live, where you domicile is not tenable. In other words, you would not be able to stay there very long because of conditions. First of all, this should apply to almost all of you. Most of you believe that your situation is going to be tenable because you got a couple of cases of beanie weenies and some water in the garage, and you've read a few books, and maybe you have some supplies. You got yourself a 3-month supply of dehydrated food, extra ketchup, and some cases of Dr. Pepper, and all of a sudden you're going to be just fine. Let's just pretend for a minute that that's not true, but the general question is, what happens if you're living someplace and for some reason you got to go another place? Now, that can fit many different scenarios too. I know people who live in a city and they have land or they have a property outside the city that they would want to move to, that they would want to go to. A lot of them are trying to time it, like trying to time the market. In other words, they know they're eventually going to have to do it. They're looking at situations in the world. They're looking at the election. They're looking at election night. They're looking at post-election night. They're looking at the fact that neither party at all is going to be willing to accept an election result that does not align with their preference. And so they're trying to time their escape or their leaving. And we talked in the last part about the fact that how fraught with peril that whole idea is. But it happens. And so you end up deciding that you have this place you're going to go to. You've already arranged. Maybe it's a friend's house. Maybe it's a friend's land. Maybe it's somebody you met. Maybe it's somebody you know. Maybe it's, and you got to go to from point A to point B. Lord willing, it's not some place that's several states away or hours and hours away. The first thing you need to know is, what is it going to take to get there from where you are? If it takes more than one tank of gas, you probably are already way below 50% probability of making it if there's a systemic collapse. If it is going to take more than one tank of gas, you need to make sure that you have the appropriate supplies and the ability to carry those supplies so that you can get there without having to stop, without having to go onto a major interstate, without having to stop at a gas station. Here's the thing. Even speculating on what we're talking about is very difficult because there are so many different situations. There's so many different collapse situations. It's possible, just like our character in Wick, you head out of the city after the hurricane and things start getting worse, and the highways are still wide open. Gas stations are still pumping gas. That's kind of what's going on with this slow motion collapse we've been going through since March. That's possible. And if it is, great. Best case scenarios are not what you plan for. You don't plan for the best case scenario. You don't even plan for a good case scenario. You don't even plan for a medium case scenario at all. There's no reason to plan for it. If you get on the road and you need a tank of gas to get where you're going, and you pull up to the gas pumps and the power's still on and you can pump gas and you can pay for it and you can get on down the road, well, good for you. There's no reason to plan for that. That's the best case scenario. What happens if you can't? What happens if you shouldn't? Here's my advice to everybody that cuts across every scenario and every type of situation. And it's something I've actually put in practice several times in my life. When some type of disaster, some type of emergency, some type of scary situation, some type of social collapse, some type of riots, something happens, the first thing you want to do is remove yourself from the path of the mass man. You do not want to be on the road with everybody else. You don't want to be in the line. You don't want to be around a bunch of people. The scariest place to be in a systemic collapse where people are becoming panicked and they don't know what they're going to do is with those people. So here's the general way that masses move regardless of situations once things start to fall apart. The mass man, which is almost everybody, completely oblivious to any other situations that could happen, ignorant beyond belief, will always go to the widest, fastest path, which means the highway. The highways are going to be where everybody is. That's why you see on The Walking Dead in the first season, episode 1, all of the cars trying to get out of Atlanta, and they're all just bumper to bumper. Nobody's moving. The last thing you want to do is be in that line. The number one path immediately in close proximity to the disaster, to the systemic collapse, to the riots, whatever it is the widest, fastest path. The second is going to be the narrower, slower path, which is side roads or access roads. The third is going to be back roads that are paved. The fourth is going to be unpaved back roads. And the fifth is going to be your cut roads or the paths that power lines take, cleared power line paths. All right. When you look at that list, it goes from wider, smoother, faster, all the way down to the paths that the power lines were cut through the mountains. All right, we all know what those look like. You want to adjust your travel to the fastest way you can travel without interacting with other people. Very many other people. So if it's possible for you to get on side roads and access roads and travel along without having to stop, without getting backed up, without having roadblocks, then that's the way you want to travel. If not, you have to shift down to the third way, which is you need to go on paved back roads. Paved back roads are going to be slower. They're going to be more circuitous, and yet fewer people have the mental capacity to think about other ways to get where they're going, which is why when you have 147 people that go into a Walmart and somebody comes in the front door and starts shooting, most of the people who try to get out through the front door. Why? Because that's the only door that they know. Their minds immediately shut down. They have no creative capacity. They don't consider back doors and exits and fire exits, and they try to get out the front door. Did you know that that's true? In these shooting problems with it that we've had over the last decade or so, most people try to get out the way where the shooter is. It's true. So most people are going to go to the place where the back jam is, where the log jam is. That's why you want to get away from those people. 80% to 90% of the people are going to be doing stupid things, and you just don't want to be around them. The next step after the paved back road is the dirt back road. This is my preferable way of travel. Anytime I go somewhere new, anytime where I move somewhere new, when I moved here from West Texas, I learned the back roads to get anywhere. And in Texas, you can go clear across the state if necessary, mostly on back roads, dirt roads. It's possible to travel all over the place. Dang it, 2 shows I've done that. Knocked over my beverage. All right. And so when I lived out in West Texas, I would take the dirt roads all the way to town, to different towns to get out of town, because I wanted to know those roads like the back of my hand. War Dog Hans says paved roads in Montana are either country roads or highways. Back roads are pretty much all gravel dirt. Yeah, that's true. And so the good thing to do to practice, if you have a place you have to go, if there's a place where you can go, if you have some land somewhere, if you have a cabin in the woods, if you have a fallback position, if you got a place out of the state or in the country, find out how to get there, never touching a paved road if possible. If you can do that, you're way ahead of the game, because eventually those roads are going to get suspect as well. Eventually, even the cut roads, even the cut paths, which are where the power lines travel, are going to become very dangerous, as you see in the book Wick. However, early on in the game, those places, those ways of travel are wide open. People don't think about them. They don't know about them. They don't go there. And so you're not going to run into very, very many people. So I'm not numbering these. Rule number asterisk is figure out where you're going, figure out how to get there, Uh-oh, I'm back on. I'm eating survival sausage. Now I have it in my mouth. I got to eat it. I hope I didn't lose too many people. I apologize for eating in the middle and in front of you, in front of your back, behind your back, in front of your face. I got to finish doing this. I just sat back and started having some survival sausage. We should cut to a video. Okay, hold on. I'm almost there. I wish I was smoking a fine cigar. All right, where was I? Most people haven't thought about how they're going to get where they're going to get because they think that ceteris paribus fallacy. They're going to just get on the main highway. They're going to get going. They got the car packed up. They got everything ready to go. They were really, really prepper oriented, and they got themselves some carry packs, and they got them all packed, ready to go, and they just threw them in the back of their SUV, and now they're just going to get up on the highway, and they're going to go. I hope that works for you. I hope it does. If you're planning for it to work for you, you're planning to fail. If it works for you, that's great. That's plan number one. You got to have a plan number B. So the next step is, like I said, you need to plot out how to get where you're going without ever getting on a main road. Don't just know how to get there. Travel it regularly. There's a back road between here and Coleman, Texas. We travel it regularly. Like for 15 years, we've traveled it probably 50, 60 times a year. Why is that? Because I want to know what it's like. I want to know what it's like in different seasons. I want to know what it's like after a heavy rain. I want to know if the roads flood out. I want to know what it's like in the snow. I want to know what it's like during planting season. I want to know if somebody blocks that road at some point. Second thing you need to think about is it's very possible, if it's a bad enough systemic disaster, if it's a bad enough, long-term enough problem where people think things are not going to get better in the near future, a lot of back roads are going to get blocked permanently. This is in my book, The Last Pilgrims. It's also in the book Wick, but it's in pretty good detail in the book, The Last Pilgrims. Think about why that is. Look where I live. I live in Central Texas. Most of the properties around me are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres. If there's a systemic disaster that's bad enough, that's going to last long enough, and we know that there's going to be roving bands of troublemakers and other things, not much good is going to come down that county road, that dirt county road that leads to my land. Not much good at all. I can get together with local landowners, my neighbors, going all the way south or going all the way west. We out here can travel long distances just through each other's properties. We have roads on our properties. We have gates between our properties. So it's very possible that landowners will get together and say, hey, if we need to go to town, we can go through these roads on our properties. We certainly don't want that main road open because nothing good is going to come down that road. And so those people may choose to block those roads or make those roads impassable. All of this I'm saying is that you have to plan and you have to think and you have to be able to ideate about what kinds of things could happen and then make plans around those. Russ says, I'm 100 yards from the largest freshwater source in the continent, the Great Lakes. I'm considering whether leaving them is worth the cost and the risk. All right, so find out where you're going. Find out different ways to get there. Learn those ways and learn them well so that you know them and you can do them under stress. The next thing you need to consider is when is the best time to move. Personally, I prefer to, in that kind of situation, and depending on how far I need to go, is to move at night and rest during the day. The reason I prefer to move at night is that it's possible. First of all, most people are not likely to move without lights, so you can see other people a long way away, especially if you're not using lights. You can also move in the shadows. You can also move from place to place and park on a back road. You can do all different types of things. Moving in a straight line during the day, I'm talking about things being pretty bad, can be a bad idea. It's 12 miles from here to Coleman, Texas. If I had to get from there and was trying to get home, depending on how bad things are, every different scenario would bring up a different way that I would do it. But if things were really bad, I mean really bad, like there's no way I would get on the highway, there's no way I would even think about it. And I'm in a pretty rural area. And I know the back ways, and I know even backer ways than that. I would probably hunker down during the day, and I would move at night when it's dark, when it's a lot less likely I'm going to be intervened, interdicted. And so those are all things you need to think about. Now we're going to talk about bug out bags, bug out packs, all those type of things. First of all, you ought to carry a pack in your car, 72-hour pack we used to call them. But that thing it should have basic items. It could be basically like a gym bag, or we talked about a tactical bag or some regular backpack. You generally want to have a little bit of food in there, maybe some protein bars that don't go bad, water and or some type of hydration, and medical kit, and then other things that you think might come in handy. What you don't want is a pack that's so heavy that you can't carry it, which means that for most people, especially men, you don't want that pack to weigh more than 10% of your body weight, probably less. It means you need to get rid of a lot of stuff that you're never going to use. If you're good at this and you get really good at it, there's a couple of items that you want, because you can make the other items if you have those items. So a good pocket knife, a good camp knife would be something that you definitely want. So the next thing you want to think about is, okay, I have to go farther than that. I live in the city. I don't. I'm just saying, if you did. You live in the city, and the place that you want to go to is 2-3 hours away. First of all, you got to stop thinking in 2 or 3 hours, because that's just not going to be possible. And a systemic collapse, that's really, really bad. Being 2 to 3 hours away in Texas generally means you're 180 to 200 miles away. But in eastern areas and mountainous regions, it could be a whole lot closer, but you're going to travel a whole lot slower. So if I had a place that was 180 miles away, I'm going to have to realize that it's possible that I'm going to be able to make it there on a tank of gas, but I would probably want to have some spare gasoline with gasoline stabilizer that I can load up at the last minute and carry with me. Second thing is, what happens if I have to abandon the vehicle, which is very likely, and what happens if I have to abandon my backpack? If I had to move that far, if the place I was going was more than an hour or so away, the next thing is 180 days would be 10 days on foot. The next thing I would do is start thinking about pre-positioning materials. If you have to go to 2 or 3 states away, if you have to go 6 or 8 hours away, you really need to pre-position materials. You need to operate under the assumption that you are not going to get where you're going under the best possible scenario. If you do, that's great, but it's almost certainly not going to happen, which means assume that you lose your vehicle, assume that you lose your backpack. If you're that far away, if you're 2 states away, 1 state away, or if you're 6 hours away, you need to really consider pre-positioning materials somewhere. There's a lot of different ways to do this and to think about it. The book that I would recommend reading that talks about this sort of thing is Brother Frank, my novel, Brother Frank, in which case there is an underground group who operates in this way, moving things around the country. You can consider renting a mini storage, although that can be expensive, and it also is not without its own peril. Within the first month or so, maybe a month after a systemic collapse, you might be able to get to a mini storage, you might be able to get into it, and you might be able to retrieve a vehicle, a backup vehicle, backup equipment, backup supplies, a backup pack, etc., water and food. Beyond a month, beyond even possibly a couple of weeks, the likelihood that somebody hasn't broken in there and gotten anything good out of there goes way, way down. And why is that? Because people automatically think of mini storages as places to get stuff. Even the feds, one of their top priorities in homeland security and homegrown terrorism is monitoring mini storage rental and mini storage activity. What do you do then? Those of you who know Brother Frank know the answer because it's explained and it's laid out in there, and this is real. This is real based on people that really do this stuff. A better option, if you can get it, is to rent an old, worn down, regular warehouse space. A warehouse space that no one even thinks about. They're invisible. When you're driving through a city, when you're driving through a town, the old, wore down warehouse space, nobody even thinks about it. They're completely and utterly invisible. The feds don't even go think about them. And so very likely somebody owns these buildings, and most likely there might be some stuff in there. Perhaps somebody has put some old building materials and that sort of thing. But most of these people, you can go up to them, find the owner, and tell them, hey, here's my deal. I'm looking for a place to store some stuff. All the stuff I'm going to store is building materials, broken down tiles, and things that I buy at auctions. Because I think about I'm going to build a house someday, and I need a place to store this stuff. My homeowners association will not let me do it. So go to an auction, buy you a couple pallets of old broken tiles and some old carpet and a few boxes of stuff, and go store them in an old warehouse that nobody would ever break into because there can't be anything in there of value and nobody ever would think about it. Then you put boxes in there and you pack junk all around it, and you possibly have a place you can get to. You can get your stuff out of there. Wait, do I support the flag? What flag? My God, why in the world do I even mess with Periscope? I don't even know why. So the question is, what type of places where can you store stuff? How can you pre-position stuff? If you know people along the way, if you have friends along the way, if you have church members along the way, you can contact those people and you can ask them, hey, is it possible that I could store a couple of boxes of stuff in your back shed? Is it possible I could do? That's the open and upfront way to do it. The other way to do it is to scout the place out, scout the whole route between where you are and where you're going, and do it a lot. Do it till you're really, really good at it. Then find a place that's preferably not on private property and preferably on a county or government access, and you want to put stuff there in a way that can be easily accessed. So here's the thing. You don't want to carry a bunch of stuff. You don't want to pre-position a bunch of stuff. If you need to pre-position stuff, you really don't need a whole lot of things. You basically need water and food, and you need maybe weapons or ways to defend yourself and ways to be able to continue on your path. Maybe some backup clothing, that sort of thing. And so that's the thing. Think about how you might pre-position materials. The easiest way to do it in a guerrilla fashion is to get yourself a small piece of PVC, maybe 2-3 inches, maybe a foot and a half long. Get yourself some sealed caps. They have the screw-in type that you can glue on there that are watertight and airtight. Put you some things like water, and put you maybe some clothes, put you some things that will roll up and fit into there, maybe a first aid kit, some food, and some water. And then you go out there sometime in the middle of the night. A good person that knows what they're doing, that's done it before, can dig a post hole in about 45 seconds. Make sure you mark your position, whether you use a GPS or an actual map. I recommend an actual map. And you pre-position your stuff there, and then you move on. Make sure that it's not easily locatable. Make sure it's not going to be dug up the next time they decide to put fiber optic lines through there. And get moving. Bury it. That's right. Hide it, bury it, whatever. Oh my gosh. I just don't know why I even mess with Periscope, because there's nothing but morons on there. You try to have an intelligent conversation and you just got morons popping in 24/7. All right, so everybody knows where we are. If you have to move, think about it. Think about where you're going. Think about how long it's going to take you to get there. Think about what supplies you're going to need. Think about everything going wrong, and think about the worst case scenario and how are you going to get there? How are you going to work around situations? Pre-position equipment and materials if you can. If you can, like I said, get into an old warehouse situation, an old barn, an old abandoned barn on somebody's property, and they'll let you park an old $400 Pacer, 73 Pacer, or something like that, or an old vehicle that barely runs, and you just want to park it in a barn for a while, and there might be a backpack or two hidden somewhere in the vehicle. That's another option. Just things you can do. And so, just so that we make sure everybody knows where I'm coming from, I am against the whole concept of having to bug out. I hope you don't have to do it. I hope you don't. You can plan on a better solution to not ever having to get into that situation. The only reason I'm even talking about this is I was asked to talk about it. People constantly ask me about bug out bags, bugging out. What about this? And so I decided I would do a talk about it. And so it's stretched into 2 episodes. Oh, Danielle's here. Hello. Glad to see you. All right. So now this is all open to your questions. It's open to your comments, whatever you want to talk about. If you don't participate, the show ends and that's it. I have been behaving myself really well, and I don't think that I even said any bad words. I did spill my beverage, and for some reason the whole show went off for a few minutes, and I had to sit there and eat survival sausage, which I'm going to finish here in just a minute. If you have a question in a comment, please come on in and type in anything you want to talk about. If you think you need to be somewhere else, then why not go there now? Of course, that's what I say, and of course, that's what I tell people, but I will tell you exactly the results, or what most people are going to say is that I can't. For some of them, that's true. For most of them, it's not. But if you have not yet learned that the human mind's capable of rationalizing, justifying any behavior, you haven't been around here very long. Yeah, if I already have determined that the people I'm around are unsafe, if I've determined that my situation is untenable, if I understand that I'm not sustainable where I am and that I'm going to have to get out of here, and I'm looking at the world situation and it's 99.5% certain that something's going to happen that's going to cause this to happen, yeah, I think I would probably go ahead and make a move. But people will constantly tell you that they can't. And for some of them, it's true. For a small number of people, it's true. Perhaps they have a parent that's in a retirement home or something like that. But for most people, it's economic comfort. The same reason that their children are still in public school, even though they admit that the public schools are training grounds for Marxism, they will always fall back on the idea that they are forced there, that they are handcuffed, that there's nothing that they can do. All right. The best things to preposition, it goes by size and it goes by the security of the place where you can put it. If, like in Brother Frank, you can get yourself an old rundown warehouse and somebody lets you, that's lockable, that somebody lets you pre-position materials there, and you tell them, hey, I'm going to be rehabbing an old house. I'm going to be keeping roofing tiles. I'm going to be keeping anything I can get at auction, at Retool or whatever. And you buy some of that stuff just to make it all look good. I would put an old car or an old truck there. I would probably keep some fuel. Thank you, Hava. I appreciate so much the super sticker. That's what keeps us going. I would probably pre-position clothing, cold weather and hot weather clothing. Definitely medical supplies, some food, some water, and gold and silver if you can get it. If you can't or don't want to do it, there are other ways to do that. And so here's the thing. True story. Russ, I'll get to your comment here in just a minute. There was a challenge given to some like-minded people, and that was if you were given a large amount, let's say 4 to 6 ounces of gold, you had to hide it on your property. Feds are coming. They're going to kick down the doors. They're going to search the place. They're going to look for anything of value, looters, rioters, whoever else, and you got to hide it. There are lots of different ways that people do this kind of thing. The main mental jump for the mass man. Thank you so much, War Dogheim, for that. Anybody else wants to help out, keep us going, make us continue to be able to do the show? Super chat is available to you on YouTube. Just underneath the comment section, you can see a little dollar sign. You can click on that. So the mass man immediately thinks of putting it in a safe or putting it somewhere, hiding it somewhere really, really clever. And generally that involves even putting it inside the walls and wallpapering it in. These are all places they look and they can find pretty quickly. They can find when there's stuff inside the walls. They got machines, phone apps that can look right through the walls. The winner took the gold coins, melted them down into the size and shape of an actual rock, painted it to look exactly like an old rock with dirt and everything else on it, put it by the front mailbox. It's the old hide in plain sight. Was never found, never located, and that person won. So that's a way to think. It's not telling you to do that. It's telling you that's a way to think. We teach principles, not recipes. All right. The principle is think about something that nobody would ever even consider because it is so ubiquitous. It is so normal. It is so absolutely expected that nobody would think about it. Old movie called Running Scared. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal. There's a pretty cool scene. It kind of goes south on them, but the pretty cool scene where every time they end up taking their undercover cop car, somebody paints unmarked cop car on the side of it. So eventually they take it into the yard where they fix up the cars and they say, we want this thing to be invisible. And so when they go to pick it up, it's a taxi. Just a way to think. It's a way to think. Think about the place you are and think about the thing that is there that nobody would even consider. Hello, Macon, Georgia. If you have any questions or comments, come on in here. Ask questions. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. And so, that's just different ways to think. Prepositioning things like valuables, things that are barterable. I would look at it like, how much space do I have? What's the likelihood that somebody's going to come across it? Somebody kicks in the door of an old warehouse, pulls open the door of an old warehouse that's locked or whatever, and they walk in there and all they see are pallets of broken tiles. They move on pretty quickly. Their time is too valuable to them. If in the middle of those broken tiles and all those boxes, inside of that, there's boxes that have stuff in them, they're never going to find them. Rusty old farm equipment is exactly right. That's exactly right. Sitting in a field. Make it look like it belongs there. I don't plan on bugging out, but rather if I'm out of town, I want to get a home bag. We talked about that in the last episode. This is episode 2, Chuck, but thanks for tuning in. But I'm with you. I don't plan on going anywhere, but if I have to go up to Arkansas to visit my family, I'm definitely going to take a pack with me, and I'm going to have a plan. My plan is to know stuff. That has been my plan for 30 years. Know enough stuff. Hopefully that's your plan too. If anybody has any specific questions or comments or things they want to talk about, we're at 46 minutes, which means we got a few minutes. We could always answer a few more questions. This is going to be it for the bugging out section of the Bunker Academy of Advanced Survival and Preparedness Training. I'm always here for you. And so what I'd like you to do after this show is over, 5, 10, 15 minutes after this, go to YouTube, youtube.com/bunkdad, or just type Michael Bunker into the search engine. Go to my channel, find this video, go to the comment section, leave a comment. Your comment could be, hey, this is great, best thing I ever heard. It could be, this sucks, I don't ever want to see it again. Hope you drown in a fire. I don't care as long as you put a comment, because comments help YouTube decide to give this information to more people. Hit the like button. But also in the comment section, think about this. What's something you would like me to talk about? What's a topic you would like me to talk about? How to make activated charcoal. Yeah, I actually have a video on here somewhere from 2009. I think I was 42 years old. Somewhere on here is me doing a off-grid water filter, off-the-cuff, last minute, with what we had on hand, and making our activated charcoal was part of that video. Just do a YouTube search. Do Michael Bunker off-grid drip water purifier. I bet you'll be able to find that video. I'm pretty sure it's still out there. Long time ago, my children were small. Portable water filter recommendations. We have one stainless one that was used on missions, but can't find another one like it. There's a lot of good ones out there now. They even have those life straws, depending on how long you plan on being out there. One of the things you don't want to be doing for a very long period of time is filtering water. If you have to do it for very long, you want to build yourself a large, maybe a 50-gallon water filter, and then you need to know the principles. Should I make a wood engine? Sure. What do you want to run with it? That's the thing. The question isn't ever, should I buy a generator or should I buy solar power? The question is, why do you want to run something with it? And if you want to run something with it, figure that part out first. Then you can go backwards and figure out what you need to run it with. And so Pure makes great water filters. Just a Pure, if you're poor like me, a Pure water pitcher. I find them brand new at garage sales and at thrift stores, brand new for $1 or $2. And they fit in a backpack. They're, from this big down to smaller. They all take universal water filters that you can buy at Home Depot or Walmart. Bugging out with young teens. The best thing you can do right now is activate their imagination, their excitement. Get them to read some books, particularly Wick, and then ask them questions. What would you do in this situation? What would you do in that situation? Start activating their imagination, and then allow them funnel that energy and that excitement about the possibility of something like that happening into them coming up with good solutions and ways to think. The best thing you can ever do is activate their imagination by letting them read and understand that these things are not only possible in the situation we're in right now, they're very, very likely. Is being able to draw a good skill to have in a group, or is it kind of useless? I can't imagine much value in that unless it was map making, and that takes a whole other amount of spatial recognition skills and all of that. So perhaps there's something I'm not thinking of that would be of great value for knowing how to draw. The thing I would probably think of that you might use as a selling technique is to say, hey, I can keep the youth busy. I can teach them how to draw. I can keep them busy. I can educate them. So being a teacher of drawing is probably more valuable than actual drawing in that type of situation. The signed versions of God in the Storm, the paperbacks have been shipped. I signed them. Sean signed them. They've been shipped back to Sean, and he's shipping them out. We had a problem with the hardback versions, and then we just recently got the ISBN. So it's going to be a period. I don't know exactly how long, but once we get them, I'll let you know. I sign them. One of the problems is these books have to be shipped 3 times because we don't live in the same place. To get the signed copies, they have to be shipped to me. Then I have to sign them and ship them to him. Then he has to sign them and ship them to you. And we had a problem with the hardbacks. They're all coming out. It's all going to happen. Paperbacks should be going out any second now. I've seen them. I've held them in my hand, and then I've signed them. The water drip purifier video, how to make an emergency water purifier. Bam. And it was a long time ago. It was 11 years ago. Yeah, I've got it blocked because of people like this idiot from Periscope. I've got it blocked where you can't put links. Sorry about that. Everybody just look up how to make an emergency water purifier, Michael Bunker, and you can find it on YouTube. You can also put, I think you can put a link after the show's over in the comment section. All right, y'all, I got to go. It's 53 minutes after. I hope you guys are all doing well. If you would, if it's possible, if you think you might want to help out, I'm going to be doing a fundraiser. I keep saying that, but I haven't done it. If you want to help the show out, go to michaelbunker.com. The link is right here. Go to michaelbunker.com. On that page, right up in this area here, is a link that says partner and subscribe, and you can click on that and you can do a subscription. And you can do a monthly $1, $2, $5, $10, $20 monthly subscription that helps the show. And that would be very, very helpful. Appreciate you guys who did the super chats and the super other things that have helped finance the show. God bless you all. I love you. Lord willing, I'll see you again tomorrow. If not tomorrow, maybe the next day. We'll see. You guys have a great night.